It's Ocean Drive in Coney Island.
Ocean Drive is the only luxury rentals in New York with a spectacular ocean view. You wake up in the morning and breathe that ocean air. I'll certify that you're going to live 10 years longer. When I became successful, I wanted to live on the ocean. If you have worked hard, you deserve an apartment on Ocean Drive too. Go to oceandrivenyc.com and reward yourself.
If you're a policeman, fireman, doctor, nurse, or teacher, you qualify for a limited time offer at oceandrivenyc.com. Terms and conditions apply.
In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, nothing happened yet, right? We're okay in New York? Yeah, nothing big. However, some nastiness. This is the day of jihad, global jihad, and it's happening in pockets around the world. People are getting stabbed while maniacs yell out Allahu Akbar, stuff like that. But New York City is it's a normal Friday, and it's a abnormal Friday for me. I had root canal 3 hours this morning, and wow, that is. Do you know what the hell they're doing? I still don't know. He explained it to me 4 times. I don't know what exactly is happening. I think the the nerve inside my tooth has died, and they have to get out the dead tissue. And so they take off the top of the tooth, they suck that stuff in, they suck it all up, and then they have to carefully place replacement into the root, the root of your tooth. You have like these canals. Oh yeah, root canal. They have like little line. I know how to do this. I can do it. And you stuff that artificial material in there. It's like a very deep filling. But I asked him if I could get the gas. You know how much they charge for gas? $300. $300. And I'm like, well, how much is this overall? Well, it's covered by 70, whatever. I'm like, nah, give it to me straight, Doc. I'll take it. No gas for me. I did get Novocaine and stuff like that. Very professional. Afterwards, I kind of wanted to give them a round of applause. I mean, just me. I mean, the professionalism, Dr. Scott there and his assistant. I mean, I don't think dentists nearly get enough credit, right? They are very, very good. People bitch and moan about the pain and, waiting, and they make fun of the waiting room. And I could watch what he was doing on a TV. There was a TV because he's got one of those headsets on that, it magnifies the whole thing as he works, and it's all put on a television. I said, and every time he put a little rod in, he'd x-ray me to see if it got into the right place, and then they'd work on it a little bit more, and then they'd x-ray me again, and then they'd work on it a little bit more. I'm like, how did they do this like 30 years ago when they had to send the film to development? And he's like, well, they had to kind of use a microscope, and they had to eyeball it and hope for the best. And he told me, though, strangely enough, that they were very successful. The success rate for root canal has not like drastically increased with all this new technology. But I'm glad they have it. I can't imagine going to the dentist 100 years ago. What was that like? So thank you very much. The professionalism, I very, very much respect. Anybody who can do anything with their hands, anybody who can do anything, who has a real skill. And lately that seems to be evaporating. I just sitting around taking selfies, right? That's what we have a new generation doing, just sitting on their damn device, myself included. I can waste hours going through it. We are one silly world. And who the hell knew about all this anti-Semitism? I think we should start a new group. And I'm serious here. I mean, Jewish lives matter. Jewish lives matter. Every corporation in the universe was making T-shirts, Black Lives Matter, throwing money at BLM, pretending that white supremacy was a thing when it's not a thing, right? Remember all that nonsense? And people went, the military, the Senate, the House, Nancy Pelosi kneeling on her with the kente robe, right? Doing some sort of, she had no idea what she was doing, but she was trying to be African, right? It was a joke and a disgrace. She actually offended Africans when she did it. I'm talking about, people from Africa. She tried to mimic certain things she knew nothing about culturally. Terrible. But it's not just the tippy top, the upper tier. You've got grocery stores doing this stuff, right? You've got, oh gosh, we here at Jiffy Lube, Black Lives Matter at Jiffy Lube. Actually, I don't know if they did that, but I like Jiffy Lube. But you know what I mean? It's just, it took over society. Now we're seeing some things. We're seeing anti-Semitism, and I think you can read between the lines. Sometimes they don't just say it out loud. When Joe Biden did not welcome Bibi to the White House, he didn't welcome Bibi to the White House. That was a thing. They were putting it off. You know what that was? A little message to the world. Yeah, we're not down with these guys. Maybe now is the time to take your shot. With Trump, no greater friend ever. We were tight. Now, and Obama, too. He was sending little signals all over the place. You can see it. You can feel it. How little the world has changed. All that's never forget, right? Never again. Well, you can see it actually happening. What happened in Israel is literally 1,000 times worse than what happened in the summer of 2020 and George Floyd. It's 1,000 times worse. 2,000 times worse. 2,000 many more people, right? Targeted because of their faith, and children and women, non-combatants, innocent people, right? Being drawn into this. Yet, you can turn on TV and they're doing other news. They're talking about the speaker. They're talking about, Trump said something horrible. They're talking about all that stuff, right? Hey, by the way, Trump did not say anything that horrible. Okay, just lighten up, everybody. He's totally fine. He said, Hezbollah, they're smart. He said that about all kinds of horrible people in the past because it's true. Some of our enemies are smart. The Chinese are smart. Vladimir Putin, smart. Might be evil and ruthless, but he's smart. The phrase evil genius, they've got a lot of those out there. And they're trying to, how could Trump ever say such a thing? Well, again, in America, it's really not about what you do. It's about what you say. And that's not good. Anybody can say the right thing. Actually, it's kind of interesting. A lot of people are not saying the right thing. And, having said that, I do think you have the right in America still to be wrong, right? Don't we have the right to be wrong? You have the right to be an idiot. Should we blow up anyone's life if they say the wrong thing? So the lady who runs Harper's Bazaar, it's a high-end fashion magazine. What did she say? She put on Instagram. By the way, note to the wise, never say anything political on Instagram, all right, no matter who you are. Well, then again, I do it all the time. You got to really know what you're doing, all right? You got to know what you're doing. You got to think it out. You got to understand. And if there's a time and a place for controversy, right? But just know what you're getting yourself into. So this woman who runs Harper's Bazaar, I believe she is of Muslim faith, or certainly Arab descent. Her name is Samira something. And she writes on Instagram, there's nothing more inhumane than cutting off electricity and water to Gaza. Okay. There are plenty of things more inhumane than that, right? Chopping off a baby's head, okay? Burning a family, right? All that stuff, right? So I can disagree with that, and I can say all kinds of things, and I can say that Hamas, they brought this on. And, of course, when you have your enemy cornered, like in a little area like Gaza, and after what they did, turning off the water, turning off the electricity, I can say all that, and she can have that opinion. I disagree. It's wrong, but should she be chased out of civil society for saying that? There is the possibility that over the past, I don't know, how old is this woman? I'm guessing she's like 45. Maybe for the past 25 years, she's been reading the New York Times, which is rife with anti-Semitism and pro-Palestinian crap. Okay? Maybe she was warped by today's media culture. I can't blame this. I don't know if I can put all this blame on her. Maybe she's not watching the news. Maybe she's not an astute observer. Maybe she's dumb. Maybe she knows all about skirts and hemlines and stuff like that, but nothing about the world. I think we have to cut people a little bit of slack. And I don't want to get in trouble for saying that you can get yourself in trouble for saying, well, maybe we should cut them some slack. Maybe they're ignorant. Maybe they don't know better. But no, she's, probably going to lose her job at a big company, by the way. Who runs Hearst? William Randolph Hearst, his company is still around. And this lady will probably be forced out. Right now, she's apologizing up the wazoo to everybody who will listen. And even the company put out a statement, this is not our values, and this is not. It's a little, I don't know. I mean, I didn't like it when the companies were putting out talking about values and Black Lives Matter. I do think it's appropriate to stand by, however, an entire race, an entire religion, the Jews. They've been persecuted for being Jewish. It's horrific. It hasn't ended. And I think that was a very dark. However, maybe she's thinking about the kids. All right. She's thinking about kids, but only on the Hamas side, only on the Palestinian side. All right. I've got some beef with that. I just don't know about this cancel culture. And somebody can say something, the next person, the next evil person, whoever that is, the evil person on the rise, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say and do all the right things on social media, right? They'll masquerade as a decent person. The devil can be quite pleasing to the eye if you're not careful. Hey, wait a second. All right. I really don't care who the next speaker is. Kevin McCarthy, one of his many problems, seduced by the intention of the media. Sometimes you got to just say what your opinion is and get the hell out. You got to say what you're going to do and then walk away. He stands there for 45 minutes entertaining these questions from 24-year-old CNN producers, asking him hypothetical questions, and he's giving answers, and it's like it makes him look weak. Some people can do it well. Trump can do it well. He cannot do it well. As we go into this weekend, we're not done, by the way. We're not done. The threat, just because if nothing happens today, that'll be great, but we're at an enhanced state of risk. We used to have remember the terror alert system? We used to have that nationwide. We have nothing like that now. Remember, we had red alert, orange alert, green. Man, maybe we should bring something like that back. I don't know. Yeah, listen to this. We've got real bad people, and then we've got people who are not bad. Listen to what we say about the people who are not bad. I'm talking about the January 6ers. People who are in jail for January 6th. So many of whom did not break anything, did not hurt anybody. And listen to the fake news just rip into them every time they come up. Cut 25.
On January 6, 2021, domestic terrorists the president has empowered for years stormed the Capitol.
On January 6th, and then once the terrorists stormed the Capitol, he did everything but intervene.
January 6th, there's a lot of domestic terrorists.
This process of the terrorists who attacked the Capitol on January 6th.
The entire Republican Party apparatus has decided to wrap their arms around domestic terrorists.
Right? Very, very reasonable. Not a bit of a... Now, we see real terrorism, right? We know what it looks like. We know it. We saw it on 9/11. We saw it the other day in Israel, slaughtering a bunch of women at a concert. Listen to how MSNBC talks about these barbarians. Cut 26.
There are 2 million civilians who live in the Gaza Strip under the control of the Hamas militants.
The residents of border cities describe the terror of Hamas militants entering their neighborhoods, coming into their homes.
I want you to listen to a distraught father describe the moment he realized Hamas militants had abducted his wife, his 2 daughters, and his mother-in-law.
A militant? What's a militant? I've heard militant look used in a kind of harmless way. You look rather militant today. That was Joy Reid. She does look rather militant. She was wearing a green T-shirt, and she has a bald head. But who did something worse? What's worse, a militant or a terrorist, right? Obviously, the terrorist is worse. Look at what they say about people. Look at, they've done so much. The enemy of the people. Underline it, the enemy of the people. Be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right. Have you seen any cops? Have you seen extra cops? I keep hearing they're in uniform and they're all out. How did I get to work today? I walked. I didn't see anything. I don't want to go on the subway, but, you never know. When your time is up, your time is up. But we don't want anything happening to anybody, all right? So, let's see here. Now, this is the Deputy Commissioner for Counterterrorism. Her name is Rebecca Weiner. And I have beef with her because, for political reasons, she said publicly that fighting white supremacy is one of her main priorities. As that might have felt good when she said it, and that may have pleased certain woke idiots, right? But if she did actually spend any time on that phantom, it made actually the city less prepared for this moment. But because this is real, and we know it. It is, right? So Rebecca Weiner, Deputy Commissioner, let's see what she has to say here. Cut 20.
These calls to action are not new. You will see enhanced security posture. You have seen it over the last several days since the assault on Israel on Saturday began. You will see officers.
She seems a little bit delicate.
Command, our counterterrorism officers on patrol. These deployments are about two things. They're about deterrence, and they're about reassurance. We want New Yorkers to feel safe, and we want people to stay calm. This is not done.
I do not feel any of that listening to her. This is about deterrence. This is about safety. You can have a woman in this job, but I mean, I feel like she's briefing a bunch of fourth graders before they go on a field trip, right? There's something very, where'd she say this? Where would she say that? Oh, my old area, the Good Day Show. Let's see here. Cut 21.
Our deployments are really in two parts, and there's the high visibility patrols that I just mentioned earlier, and that's about quelling spontaneous violence around mass gatherings, protests, etc. These are folks who are specially trained, specially armed, deployed around the city, houses of worship across denominations, sensitive locations around the city. That's our overt counterterrorism.
Stop! Some of them are not specially trained, all right? You might have the counterterrorism on the back of your jacket, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're specially trained. It means you're a cop, and that's good. We got cops. I just wasn't really impressed here. Yeah. Were you? Let's try one more. Does she find her mojo here? Cut 22.
An attack versus incidents, and we see tensions flaring up. We saw some protests over the weekend. We will continue to see protests today into the weekend. People have heated emotions, but we don't see violence, and that's what we're going to ensure. We do everything possible to make sure, as the mayor said, hatred has no place in our streets, and we have no tolerance for violence here on our streets either.
Do you remember when they closed down the FDR and they let the Black Lives Matter protesters walk all over the place? When they closed down, I mean, they didn't close it down. They just let the protesters take over the Brooklyn Bridge. You remember when the cops were actually, some cops under Democrat, I think it was de Blasio, where they were kneeling during Black Lives Matter? I don't know. Something tells me that right now, at this moment, the NYPD is not being particularly professionally run. It seems a little bit scattered and all over the place. And our men and women, the cops, deserve a lot more. Rebecca is the face of counterterrorism. I think you keep her in the back looking at the manuals and the studying stuff. But to put her out there as the face of counterterrorism, something tells me she's in way over her head. And that means, I don't know if we're as safe as we could be. Hey, but at least she studied some white supremacy. She'll be ready for that when it comes.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I just found out about this guy. His name is Jake Lang. He's been in federal custody in jail for 1,000 days. 1,000 days for January 6th stuff. I saw the footage of him. He was running around yelling and screaming, but he didn't hurt anybody. He didn't break anything. He was just on the wrong side of a political issue. And that door is wide open. Hey, do me a favor. Hey, Joe, you're in Brooklyn. You wanted to say something about that Harper's Bazaar lady. What's up?
Hey, so for all the reasons you laid out, she should have really never said anything. But after she did, she just showed poor judgment. And that's not something you want to see in an editor-in-chief. Now, Hearst Publications has hundreds of Jews working for them, let alone thousands of good conscious people that don't want to see any moral equivalency between terrorists and civilians. So for those reasons are all the reasons why she has to go.
Do you read Harper's Bazaar? Do we really care?
No, but I'm not.
I mean, judgment. People. The part that I'm giving her some slack a little bit. She could have grown up in this media culture, this sick media culture, right? That has for years favored terrorists when it comes to matters in the Middle East, and has been very anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. And I could see, just swirling around and reading that crap. It could, but I hear you. All right, so we'll see. Am I doing too much, James? I mean, I don't know this woman anything. You know what I mean? But people have been known to say the wrong thing before. You say the wrong thing before, and you're escorted to the front door by security. You're out. That's it. Because you said something wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're too quick, maybe as a society, to kind of do that type of stuff. I don't know if they still use the term cancel culture or whatever, but
yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, that's what it is, right? I mean, it's like if you say something that doesn't fit with the orthodoxy, you're going to go before the firing squad, digitally at least.
Well, orthodoxy, there are orthodoxies that are corrupt, and then there are, orthodoxies that, are human, and we all understand.
Mm-hmm.
Al-Qaeda, bad. ISIS, bad. Hamas, bad. Worse than bad.
Right.
Horrific, terrible, inhuman. And when you start, trying to somehow rearrange that, that's a problem. Hey, speaking of bold and controversial things.
Oh, yeah.
You were kind of musing a little while ago, and you said something that number one, I was very thought-provoking, and number two, I agree with it. So we're both in the same boat here if we get in trouble with this. But go ahead.
I was thinking back to what you were talking about, the summer of 2020 and the George Floyd protests. And at the time, I was working as a reporter, a street reporter. So I was expected to sometimes, go out to stories. And at one point, the company I was working for wanted me to go out one of these nighttime protests, the chaos that was kind of unfolding. And I said, well, are you guys going to provide me security? And they said, well, no, but, we figure if you guys kind of stay outside of the fray or whatever. And I said, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. But what I was thinking about was that in terms of the protests that unfolded, you could call them riots if you want to during that George Floyd summer, there was a lot of fear. People were really afraid of what was going to happen. I remember talking with neighbors and people were saying, well, do you think people are going to be protesting here in our town, or do you think people are going to come? And
because protesting was like rioting and looting.
Exactly. That's what was happening. I mean, we remember, Mayor de Blasio at the time and Governor Cuomo saying, no, we're not going to send the National Guard into Manhattan. But people were thinking maybe that was appropriate because there was a lot of damage being caused and people were being hurt and all this kind of stuff. The difference with what's happening right now, I think, is you talked about maybe there should be a Jewish Lives Matter movement. And the Black Lives Matter movement was what backed up the George Floyd situation. People don't feel the same level of fear and trepidation when it comes to potential backlash or anger or outrage from the Jewish community. And maybe that's just because it's kind of always been there. You talked about anti-Semitism a lot. You talked about some of the history surrounding the Jewish people and what they've gone through. But there's just not that same level of fear from the average person that there's going to be backlash against them for having a certain type of view about the Jewish-Palestinian conflict.
Take out the average person part, all right? Just in society in general, you're saying that there is not, like, we have a group that's under fire. We have Jewish people who are literally under fire, and we're seeing anti-Semitism all over. We don't see the rallying around, or if we do see, it's very sporadic. It certainly isn't as uniform as Black Lives Matter.
Right.
And that's because the average person, whatever he or she, whatever, the general sense is, you're saying there's nothing to fear. There's no fear of Jewish people. They don't fear retribution from Jewish people if they don't rally around them. However, during Black Lives Matter, there was somehow a fear that if we don't adopt the Black Lives Matter mantra and the pin and give money and do all that stuff, that there was a fear that there would be backlash. And in a primal level, that backlash might have been even physical.
Right. That you could get punched in the face for being out there and saying, all lives matter. Or that maybe not physically, but that you'd get certainly blitzed on social media for not following the Black Lives Matter position. Whereas, again, like we talked about, there's a lot of comfort, it seems, expressing sort of anti-Israel feelings. And that doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as anti-Semitism, but they're cousins, maybe.
Now, I do see that. I mean, look, we are furious with anti-Semitism. We're furious with racism. We see more people kind of saying, like, wait, you can't be pro-terrorist. That's a problem. People are saying that, but
that's true.
Not as uniformly as they all, like, the CEO of Apple and the head of NFL came out and say, we support Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right.
It's just not all the way, right? Like, even with, like, Ukraine, right? Everybody put the flag in their social media profile, and then with the Pride Month, everything has to become a rainbow and stuff like that. There's much more dichotomy with this particular issue where people feel comfortable expressing the way they really feel.
Now, let's say that there is a fear factor, right? Now, you could actually say, the fear factor, and liberals have talked about this, Michael Moore, that our sick media culture for many years encouraged, basically fomented the idea that certain white people had a lot to fear from certain black people, right? Mm-hmm. You can look up the movie, what was it, Bowling for Columbine, actually, and they do this whole thing about how especially local news really was all, if it bleeds, it leads, and they were more likely to put black perpetrators on the screen and really kind of, stoke fear. There's also this. I remember, why were elite media commentators so outraged about January 6th and so not outraged about the summer of riots in 2020? What?
I always assumed it was because at least what they said was because the institution, right? It's like such an important institution to democracy, the Capitol building, where so much happens, and the presidency was going to be verified and all this kind of, and the peaceful transfer of power and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they made it sound so grand and that kind of thing, but actually, in a weird way, it's kind of racist because I actually have this sense that the commentators somehow had higher standards for the January 6th protesters because they were white. Oh, you can't be congregating like this. No. You're white like us. You can't do that. You're black. You can burn stuff down and break windows, and we're going to say it's social justice because, well, we're intimidated and we're afraid. I know this sounds kind of raw and kind of basic, and but I think there's an element to that.
Well, all I'll say is that I remember being outraged myself personally when during the 2020 summer and all that unrest, there was a row of businesses in the Bronx owned largely by immigrants that was more or less just completely destroyed, wrecked by one of these overnight protests, if you want to use that term. And the outrage was kind of muted, I feel. But God forbid you break some windows in the U.S. Capitol building, because that is just, oh, wow. I mean, you're really offending people by going after senators and representatives and stuff like that. But, who cares about that immigrant-owned business up in the Bronx?
Yeah, because it affected the people in the suits and ties.
Exactly.
Right? There's
exactly. The important people.
Now it gets real. Now it's a thing. Yeah, because it's in your hood. But back when it was happening in the hood, they didn't care. They didn't care. Well, how about that? All right, I think we're both onto something. We're a couple of social scientists, aren't we?
And by the way, I just like to commiserate. I know you went to the dentist. I was there yesterday. Did not have a root canal, but I've had them in the past, and that's not fun. So good for you that you're...
It's no big deal, actually. He gave me so much... I found myself falling asleep. I catch myself.
It doesn't say, I can't hear anything with your, is your mouth feeling numb or whatever?
Yeah, no, it's going away. I mean, it's coming back, my feeling, but I fell asleep a couple of times. This guy was very good. The guy knew what he was doing, very comfortable, and I don't think the dentists get enough credit.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just real quick, scanning around the world and the country. This is the day of jihad. I don't see anything, I think we're okay.
There was a Reuters reporter that was killed, but it was not, this was not something where it was like a, purely terrorist attack, somebody running at a terrorist with like a knife or a gun. It was a airstrike that supposedly killed a Reuters reporter, near the border with Lebanon.
Ooh, all right.
So we do know that. And then, back at home, we mentioned this off the air, Greg, that Austin Scott of Georgia is now going to be throwing his hat in the ring for Speaker of the House.
All right, real quick, who's your congressman?
Mikey Sherrill.
Mikey Sherrill?
Yeah.
That's a girl, isn't it?
It is.
What the hell is her name, Mikey?
It's M-I-K-I-E.
M-I-K.
Maybe that's not her real name. That's a nickname.
You guys know your congressman? Is Phil back there? Does he know his congressman? Real quick. You know your congressman?
No idea, no.
Yeah, nobody knows. Nobody cares. I mean, I know.
I probably wouldn't know if it wasn't for being in the news, actually.
Mikey Sherrill.
Mine's Adriano Espalia.
We covered that the other day.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say it again, though.
All right. Well, thank you for spelling that all out. Hey, real quick before we go, we will check in with Morty. Hello, Morty.
Greg, how you doing?
Fine.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I just wanted to tell you what happened to someone I know. This is happening to their friends as well. They got into an Uber, and the Uber driver asked them whether or not they were Jewish. They said no, and the Uber driver said, okay, good, because if you said yes, I would have had to kill you, with all seriousness.
Damn. Well, did they report him to Uber and the cops and the FBI?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. But, I'm just, the fact that it's happening, at all.
Yeah, no, that's horrible. That's horrible. That's really scary, too. I mean, I'm going to have to insist that they do that right away, and you follow up and you make sure they do that.
Of course.
Haven't they done it already? My God, that's serious. I mean, I wonder if the guy was really serious, but that is a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. You see? Yes, see? It's actually happening. It's actually happening. Who knew? The underside, right? You're Jewish, right, Morty?
And anti-Semitism, they are pretty much the same thing.
What is pretty much the same thing? What's pretty much the same?
You're walking a very
hey,
fine line.
What is the pretty much the same thing?
Anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism.
A lot of people don't know what Zionism is. Zionism means, I believe, you want the state of Israel. You believe there should be a state of Israel, and obviously it has the right to exist. That's Zionism, right?
That's it.
Okay. It sounds
Jewish
people are kind of like, wait, I'm a Zionist. It's like they don't a lot of right. Do you know? I know you know, but a lot of people don't know.
But doesn't it also have to do specifically with where Israel is located, in connecting back to that biblical definition of where Israel would be, as opposed to just like somewhere in the middle of Jordan?
Morty, right? It's got to be where it is, right?
It's where it's the ancestral homeland of the Jews. If you go there and see the Jewish. If you dig in the ground, you're going to find Jewish artifacts from 3,000 years ago. That's why it's there. It's the ancestral homeland of the Jews. So you can criticize the Israeli government. That's fine, but you're in the same camp as Nazis. You're in the same camp when you start criticizing Israel. So there's a very fine line between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism that many people don't care, and they cross at will.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Because Trump the other day criticized Bibi somewhat. It was not a big deal, and they're trying to pretend that he's anti-Semitic. We all know that's ridiculous. I think Nikki Haley said something really nasty. Here, I'm going to send this over to you right now. And Chris Christie, everybody trying to pretend that Trump, who quite frankly, I mean, look, his daughter, his top advisor, Jared, Jewish. His grandchildren are all Jewish. The man is, like, as he says, the least racist person you would ever meet. There's really something to that. There really is. I've seen certain. All right. Oh, we're out of time. I'll be right back. Thank you.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Remember where we were in 1998, 1999, 2000, the first part of 2001. America was obsessed with such issues as Gary Condit. Who the hell was he? Remember? Gary Condit, the congressman from California, was having an affair with a woman named Chandra Levy. She went missing. It's all anybody talked about. The entire FBI looking for Chandra Levy because she was an intern at the Bureau of Prisons, Federal Bureau of Prisons. It turned out that they were having an affair, but she was killed by some bum, some jogger, or some crazy guy who was living in the park. He's in jail now. They solved it like 3 years later. What else were we doing? Monica Lewinsky and her dress, right? And Ken Starr. We had an office of a special prosecutor trying to figure out if Bill Clinton showed his you-know-what to Paula Jones in a hotel room in 1991, right? Stuff like that. And it wasn't just like, oh, well, they can handle that. A couple of agents can handle that. No, when you're the FBI director and you've got that kind of investigation going, that's what you're thinking about. That's what you're living, eating, and breathing. And so much of our country was spending time on stupid stuff. So much so that after September 11th, after that horrible attack, a couple of years later, they finally got together and say, okay, how did this happen? And they put together that big report, the 9/11 Commission report, which is actually very good. It's worth reading to this day. It was written by two guys, Governor Tom Kaine, New Jersey, and you put it together, and Guy Hamilton, congressman at the time from Indiana, I think. Anyway, bipartisan. And one of the things they said is that the government had gotten out of the business of kind of oversight at the, I think they called it at the administrative level, because everything when it came to oversight was just things that would gather or garner publicity, attention, and what was that? You know, sperm on a dress, right? Monica Lewinsky performing oral you-know-what in the Oval Office, right? Cigars, Paula Jones, all of that stuff. The media also dwelled on that. This is when they really lost it as a force to be reckoned with, a force of credibility, a force where there was, quite frankly, you know, they held people accountable in a semi-positive way. We became Fruit Loop country, and now we are, we were Fruit Loop country for the past 3 years. We're still a Fruit Loop country, and we've got something real on our hands right now, and we are, well, we're not as good as we were. We're not as sharp as we were. Not at all. Distracted in so many different ways, so many trivial things. Remember 9/12, day after 9/11, how, you know, thirsty we were for vengeance. We knew what we stood for. We knew what we had to do. Now everybody's all over the map. Hey, it's okay to talk about our enemies and give realistic assessments of their abilities, all right? It's dangerous to not talk about them. Do you have the clip of Trump talking about Hezbollah? He says that they're smart, and they're actually trying to go nuts and say this is somehow anti-Semitic. It is ludicrous. Go ahead.
The North Korean leader.
No, not that one, buddy. Not that one. The earlier
Hezbollah
one.
is very smart. They're all very smart.
You slammed Trump for these comments, accusing him of praising murderers. Why do you think so many Republicans seem untroubled by Trump's comments?
Stop. This is what the media do. Trump says something that's fine. They lie about it, say it's controversial, and then they run around getting Republicans to say, do you condemn President Trump? Do you separate? Do you stand by those comments? And they always have a rhino or two who will just slam Trump, like Chris Christie.
You know, I don't know that that's true. I think there might be a lot of Republicans who are troubled by his comments. But, Wolf, let's make it clear. He's a fool. He's a fool. Only a fool would make those kind of comments. Only a fool would give comments that could give aid and comfort to Israel's adversary.
It does not. It does none of those things. It does not. No. You have to take your enemy seriously. You can't pretend. You know, all Chris Christie knows is basically, I doubt he played football, right? He didn't play football at the University of Delaware, but he looks like a guy who might have put on a big sweater, extra big, extra large, extra large, and go to the football games and jeer and root and stuff like that. He doesn't talk to the American people like they're adults. Trump does. You want to hear him talk about Kim Jong-un? We don't like Kim Jong-un, do we? But nevertheless, Trump has always offered realistic assessments of our adversaries because he trusts us and he respects us. Go ahead.
The North Korean leader.
I really, have no comment on him. People are saying, is he sane? I have no idea. I can tell you this, and a lot of people don't like when I say it, but he was a young man of 26 or 27 when he took over from his father, when his father died. He's dealing with obviously very tough people, in particular the generals and others. And at a very young age, he was able to assume power. A lot of people, I'm sure, tried to take that power away, whether it was his uncle or anybody else.
He was a smart cookie. He goes on to say, smart cookie. That's okay.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
That's me. And right now, again, relatively quiet out there, and that's a good thing. Overseas, we have episodes of anti-Jewish hatred. A teacher stabbed in France. It looks like some maniac yelling "Allahu Akbar." God is great. Kind of a Muslim rallying cry. God is great, but not. I don't like Allahu Akbar. Let's see here. China. Hamas is in China. Some bad stuff going on over there. This is a global day of jihad. I have not seen too much of anything else. I think we're okay for now. After all, Deputy Commissioner Rebecca Weiner is on the job. One more from this school teacher. Cut 20.
These calls to action are not new. You will see enhanced security posture. You have seen it over the last several days since the assault on Israel on Saturday began. You will see officers from our critical response command, our counterterrorism officers on patrol. These deployments are about two things. They're about deterrence and they're about reassurance. We want New Yorkers to feel safe and we want people to stay calm. This is not done because we anticipate violence or because we are anticipating an imminent threat. This is really about making sure people feel safe.
This is about deterrence. This is about reassurance. This is about what the hell? I'm sorry, but you need somebody kick ass in a job like that. That's the face, that's the voice of counterterrorism in New York City. Something tells me she might have a hard time organizing the counterterrorism troops, right? I don't know. I don't think that's the way it's. A big part of law enforcement, a big part of fighting terror is messaging, is kind of what they call information operations. You could call it propaganda or whatever, but you want to telegraph to your enemies all over the world, do not come to New York or else. Does she sound like, you got to worry about her? Do you?
Our deployments are really in two parts, and there's the high visibility patrols that I just mentioned earlier, and that's about quelling spontaneous violence around mass gatherings, protests, etc. These are folks who are specially trained, specially armed, deployed around the city.
I think she went to the Anthony Blinken School of Talking, which is like everything is a question and nothing is really declarative. Sorry, not cut out to be the face or the voice of counterterrorism.
An attack versus incidents, and we see tensions flaring up. We saw some protests over the weekend. We will continue to see protests today into the weekend. People have heated emotions.
Hey, I'm looking at her on New York 1 right now. She's hot. She's actually very pretty.
To make sure, as the mayor said, hatred has no place in our streets, and we have no tolerance for violence here on our streets either.
I hate to say this, and it's unfortunate. I hate it, but I hate it that there's hate, but you're actually allowed to be hateful. You are allowed to be an idiot. You are allowed. Every now and then Biden says, hate has no harbor or something like that. Well, you can't eradicate that. You can't legislate that. You can't illegalize that. You want people to choose good. Most people do choose good. You can outlaw behavior. You can go after, and you can monitor hate groups. But hate, it sounds great, but it's not so great. It's actually a little bit dangerous. It's a little bit dangerous. Well, she is very, very attractive. She looks like she could be a great executive for Estee Lauder, right? But no, handling terrorism, counterterrorism. And again, why am I giving her such a hard time? Because I read this big profile of her a couple of weeks ago, and it was all about her fight with white supremacy. She will eradicate white supremacy. White supremacy has no corner here in New York City. No kidding. No freaking kidding. All right. Smarty pants, too. Harvard Law School. But, hey, we know that Harvard, boy, oh boy, you do not have to be smart to go to Harvard anymore, right? You see what those kids are signing? Tony, hello, in Clifton.
Hi, Greg Kelly. On the topic of Anthony Blinken and Iran, I do want to commend Congressmen James Comer and Glenn Grossman, who are, in fact, at this time working very hard. You may be aware they're working on a special investigation addressing Iran. They have, the other day, just 2 days ago, sent a letter to Honorable Anthony Blinken concerning Iranian sympathizers who are working in our State Department and our Defense Department, and they've named them and asked for information about their un-American activities potentially with Iran.
All right, I didn't know about that. I'm glad they're on the case, but you know what kind of stinks? It sounds so ineffectual. I know you have to do it, but a congressman comes out and has a press conference. Can he say I have sent a team of investigators. I have deployed the SWAT team. I have deployed SEAL Team 6. No. I've written a letter to Anthony Blinken. You know what? I wrote a letter. And they have a whole office to take care of the letters, right? And, 3 months later, they'll get, some letter back. And it's going to go on and on and on. You know what I mean? That frustrates me. And I don't think I'd like to be a congressman because all you can really do is send a letter. You know what I mean, Tony? I mean, I want those Iranian sympathizers out of the State Department, but I don't know. I don't know if a letter's going to cut it. You know what I mean?
So, Greg Kelly, that's my point. What I'm looking for, just for the moment, in light of the war, is to get Miss. One of them is on a leave. I would like to have Miss Ariane, let me say this name, Tabatabai, and her butt out of our Defense Department, which is where she's currently working. That's all I ask.
That's all you ask. You want somebody fired who you've never met? Well, that's okay. I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve to be fired, but what do you know about her?
During the investigation, she shouldn't be working right now at this heightened state of.
But during the investigation, I mean, look, let me tell you something about the federal government. All right, there's like 1,000,001 investigations going on at any given moment. Half the government is ratting on the other half of the government. They got all these kinds of ways you can turn each other in, and not even just make a complaint. Right? I had like 17 investigations at some point. It's a joke. You call a 800 number. You don't leave your name. You can just say all this stuff, and then you get investigated. It's just not a big deal. It's almost too easy to initiate an investigation, Tony. But I want to know, other than having the exotic sounding name, what's wrong with this person?
I do too, Greg Kelly.
What?
I do too. I want to know what she did with Iran.
Well, wait a second. No. But I'm saying, what do you know so far? What's the allegation? What's going on here? Other than having an exotic name, what's she got going here? What's the allegation?
So the allegation is that when she was working with Iran on nuclear arms investigations and research, she actually compromised the information from our government, and there is a consensus that they compromised confidential information, hot, top-secret documents, which have recently come to light. So previously, the FBI was investigating this, but Congress never knew about it, Greg Kelly.
I love how you call me Greg Kelly, and look, hey, you know your stuff. So, okay, let's suspend her immediately. No, I'm all for that. Sounds pretty bad. And if the allegations are so serious, yeah, I don't think she should. What's her job, by the way?
She's working for Lloyd Austin in the Defense Department, and they call it a top level security job. So,
here you are in Clifton, New Jersey, and keeping a really close eye on everything that's going on in the Pentagon. I love it, but don't you have anything else to do?
The reason it's important, Greg, is not because it's just another day. It's another day, and Israel is at war with Iran. Iran has attacked Israel, and I'm kind of in tune to whatever's going on there because I want everything to go well and succeed, for my country and our friend in Israel as well.
Well, listen, this is what I'm always talking about. I love it. I seriously, civic-minded, taking action. Well, are you taking action? Did you write a letter yourself? Have you done anything? I know you know all about it, but, what about getting something done?
What I have done is reached out to James Comer.
How did you reach out to him?
Well, the only way I could reach out to him is through his office. And also, Senator Marsha Blackburn of the lovely state of Tennessee has also been working on this. So she's the one that brought it to my attention because she was working on it before James Comer, and I get letters from her monthly.
Oh, that's good. All right. Well, you're so engaged, Tony, and that's a very good thing. Adam has something to say about all this. He's in Mineola. Hello.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
Yeah, just, I tell you, they're going to wipe them out now. I mean, they can't escape. There's no exit. It's fight and die or surrender.
Who? Who?
Hamas.
Yeah, well, we want them to, that's everything you just summarized is good.
Right, I didn't say it wasn't good. Sir.
All right, so we want that to happen. What's the follow-up?
The follow-up is the Black Lives Matter that y'all keep bringing up all the time. Does Black Lives matter, sir? I'm a black guy. Does my life matter? Yes or no? Because if it don't matter, that's hypocrisy.
All right, give me a break. All right. you really, you needed. We're talking about the organization and the movement, Black Lives Matter. You ever go on that website? You ever see the crazy crap that they put forward, that they support? The eradication of the nuclear family. They want these weird transgender communities. You know how much money the Black Lives Matter movement scammed out of people who are just trying to virtue signal, all right? It's the Black Lives Matter movement and trying to rile everybody up with handouts and fear every election year. Happens each and every time. I'm a white man. I matter too. If I say white lives matter or all lives matter, you realize I can get in trouble for that, Adam? You know, people have gotten it fired for that. So obviously human beings, we know that. How do we know that? We know it from God, and we know it from, if you need a secular validation, we know it from the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. We don't need three radical, forgive me, I don't know what the hell their orientation was, but it was not typical, forming Black Lives Matter and stealing money from everybody and sowing this kind of social mayhem. All right, Adam?
Sir.
What?
How much money did Bernie Madoff steal from the Jews, sir?
How much did he steal from the Jews?
Billions.
Well, yeah, and he died. Yeah. Well, he died in prison, dude. He died in prison.
Okay.
He died in prison, all right? He is one of the most notorious figures of the, what century is it? 21st century. He's one of the most notorious figures. Something tells me you're up to your old conspiracy theories again, Adam. Come on. I think you got too much time. I think you got too much time to think as you're driving around that airport. I don't know, Adam. I don't know where you're going with all this, but I still think you're a good guy, but I worry about you sometimes. I got to run. You good for the weekend?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm good for the weekend. I'll get back to you Monday.
All right. Yeah, I appreciate it. All right. Take care. It is cool. I look, we obviously differ a lot, but he's a nice guy. You know, he drives the shuttle bus at the airport. I think LaGuardia. He drives around and around, and you need those guys. And when he's off, he's got 2 days off a week. He's off Wednesdays and Thursdays. What does he do on his days off? He drives an Uber. I love that hustle. I do. I really do. All right. Be right back. Thank you.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Who the hell is Austin Scott? Congressman Austin Scott is on the fast track to be the next Speaker of the House of Representatives. See, Jim Jordan apparently is a little bit too conservative for some of the rhinos down there. They don't want him. Austin Scott is his name, and he's now running for Speaker. Who is he? Let's see here. He's 53 years old. He's from Georgia, 10th District. Let's see here. Blah, 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 blah. Looks like he was an accountant for a long time. Career politician, elected to the Georgia House of Representatives at the age of 26. 2001, Scott was the first Republican in Georgia to work with Democrats to remove the Confederate battle emblem from the state's flag. Remember when we were talking about that for like 3 years straight, the Confederate battle flag? Remember when that was a big hot issue? It was. I have no beef that they took it away. I'm fine with that. Let's see here. With millions of dollars, it just seems like a pretty much run-of-the-mill guy. Is he going to be the next speaker? He looks like an ex-football player, right? Like from Brigham Young University. He's got that look, all-American. He's also a proponent of the U.S. Navy. Imagine that. Sometimes these Wikipedia write-ups are very lame. It could be him. I really want Jim Jordan, though. I know Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan's a friend of mine. And Austin Scott, you're no Jim Jordan. All right, I'm just kidding. That's a little Lloyd Benson for you. Remember when he got on the case of Dan Quayle? Yeah, Dan Quayle. Everyone's trying to say that, especially Kamala Harris, that it's racism against Kamala Harris, that everybody makes fun of her and gives her a hard time, right? Because she's the first black woman to have that job. Well, I remember Dan Quayle, vice president for one term under George H.W. Bush. We made fun of that guy like crazy. He was a national punchline. He really didn't deserve it. What did they do? He misspelled potato. How do you spell potato? No, I think he put an E on it, or he didn't put an E on it. However you spell potato, he got a letter wrong. There was that. And he also had this deer in the headlights thing. He did kind of look a little bit spacey. However, super smart guy, actually. I was on a conference call with him in 2015, and everybody was bitching and moaning about Trump, right? Trump this, Trump can't, just like he was a spectacle at that point. Nobody took him seriously in the Republican side. People were taking him seriously. I was taking him seriously. And Dan Quayle, I remember, he said, right now, Donald Trump has a 40% chance of being the Republican nominee. And everybody's like, 40%? That's crazy. But he recognized talent. Very smart guy. He became he became a congressman at a very young age, back when it was ultra competitive, a senator at a very young age, and hey, vice president of the United States at the age of 42. He knew something about politics, that guy. Let's see here. IDF, local raids on Gaza continue. Okay, local raids. That means little probing missions, but they're nothing that severe yet. But it's coming. Here's Benjamin Netanyahu speaking about what will soon happen. Prime Minister of Israel, cut one, please go.
Hamas is ISIS, and just as ISIS was crushed, so too will Hamas be crushed. And Hamas should be treated exactly the way ISIS was treated. They should be spit out from the community of nations. No leader should meet them. No country should harbor them. And those that do should be sanctioned.
Absolutely, Bibi. Benjamin Netanyahu. I like him. We don't have to like everything about him, but we like him. And I think he's the man for the moment right now. Good luck, Bibi. And yes, Jewish lives matter.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right. So far, relatively peaceful in New York City on this potential day of global jihad. We have this. Gazans, people in Gaza, try to flee after Israel orders 1.1 million to leave north. Got to go to the north. Again, Gaza's so small. Half the size of Nassau County. The UN asks for demand to be rescinded. Hamas urges defiance of it. Hey, thanks a lot, UN. I think they should get the hell out of Gaza, don't you? Wouldn't that be a good thing to do? Let's see here. Frightened Palestinians raced to pack their belongings and flee their homes in northern Gaza on Friday, hours after Israel's military demanded that more than 1 million civilians move to the south of the blockaded coastal strip. The military's warning, along with a days-long buildup of Israeli soldiers near the Gaza border, was another potential precursor to an Israeli ground invasion of the territory, one that the United Nations said could be calamitous. Yeah, well, I think that's kind of decent of the Israelis to say, hey, make way, we're coming. Women and children, get out of the way. The United Nations, always sticking it to Israel. Always, hey, here's oh, wow, I didn't know about this. Are you ready? Exclusive in the New York Post. Cheryl Burke, still grieving after Matthew Lawrence split. My boundaries got very foggy. Who are these people? What happened? Is it me? Is it the New York Post? Is it our culture? What's going on? Who is Cheryl Burke? Nobody knows. She's still grieving after Matthew Lawrence. Who is Matthew Lawrence? Nobody knows. My boundaries got very foggy. Okay, I think that's code for I hooked up with somebody else. Let's Cheryl Burke is looking on the brighter side following her divorce from Matthew Lawrence. Oh, the Dancing with the Stars alum. A lot of people come and go on that show. How do you keep track? She opened up on her new, her outlook. What caused the downfall of her marriage? Let me just see. There's boundaries, right? Like, I have boundaries. All of that got kind of, I guess, foggy because I didn't really know who I was as a person. Oh, my gosh. Talk about rationalizing your hookup with some, I would take it, your dancing partner, right? Let's see here. Burke, 39, said of the relation. I did know that even back then that this just doesn't feel right. It didn't feel right. I knew that this wasn't right. Whether it's because of me evolving or him evolving or us evolving, but not together. It was important, first of all, try, which we did. Well, okay, let's get to the where she starts hooking up with somebody. You know what? This wasn't what it was. And to walk away with no shame and to walk away with my head held up high was something that I'm proud of to this day. because it's not ever fun to say that you're divorced in your 30s, and I'm not the cookie cutter social whatever, blah, 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 blah. Okay, where is the passionate affair she had with some dude who's totally not interested in her now that she's single? It sucks because for me, it was just cruel. Who cares? I've been learning a lesson, she told the Post. Just getting to know me and my identity, not defined by the outside world, not defined by Dancing with the Stars. There's a lot more to me. For instance, my new bikini line and dresses and fragrance. Yes, so much more to me. I made that stuff up. A lot of this heartbreak. Yep. Okay. She definitely hooked up with somebody while she was married. Hey, things happen. I'm not judging, but don't pretend, the boundaries got so foggy. I think they're pretty clear cut. And you knew and you were breaking them. And so, things happen. All right. I got to wrap this up. We do Friday phones in honor of Rush Limbaugh. Gail in North Carolina. Hello.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for taking my call. Of course, I'm devastated by what's going on in Israel, but what I wanted to ask you today was, you had mentioned a few weeks ago that there was going to be something, you got some good sources that there was going to be something coming out in October that would be really uncover the Biden corruption that no one could deny, and he would have to most probably resign. Mark Simone said the same thing. Do you still think that's going to happen?
I do, and we got another 17 or 18 days till October 31st, and I think it's going to happen before then. Now, one thing I should have said when I made that bold prediction in August, plus or minus, you know what I mean? I should have given myself a little bit of wiggle room. You know, it could spill over into November. It could take a little bit longer, but yeah, I think it's going to happen by Halloween. The White House is terrified because Joe's been blabbing all his life. He can't stop talking. We now know that he's sent something like 19,000 emails to various business entities when he was vice president. People who were doing business with his brothers, with Hunter. He's in big, big, big trouble. May not look like it, but he is. So I stand by it, yes. And the other thing, I will say this. There's already smoking gun information. It's not the smoking gun thing. It's not what I was talking about. But the House Oversight Committee has direct evidence of a wire transfer from Beijing to Joe Biden's house in August of 2019 for $250,000. Now, in the olden days, that would be smoking gun evidence of something really bad. But, everybody's just kind of looking, that was for Hunter, and Hunter, that was good face. No, it's bad, really bad. Hunter was actually living in California. He got $250,000 from the Chinese when he was already running for president. Gail, I stand by my prediction. Stay tuned. Hey, where in North Carolina are you?
Fuquay Varina.
Where's that?
It's a suburb of Raleigh.
Wow.
And I joke because I'm Jewish, and I say I'm the only Jewish person in Fuquay Varina, I believe, because the nearest synagogue is in Raleigh. So it's pretty quiet here.
Yeah, I like North Carolina. You know, I lived there for 2 years. I lived in New Bern, out on the East Coast. I loved it. 2 wonderful years. I love North Carolina. Thank you, Gail. And Eric is in Queens. Yes, Eric.
Greg, so as much as I support the Israelis in their mission to take out the terrorists, one thing people don't realize, and they get confused, is Israel is a very liberal society. It is not this holy, big-time religious place that people think it is. It's religious because of the Jewish influence that has come in there, of people that basically returned home. But the actual ethnic Israelis, they're very socially liberal. And just in case you didn't know, they're the biggest consumers of marijuana per capita. They were big in the ecstasy drug trade. They were big in the cocaine drug trade.
It sounds like you're explaining half the world right now. I mean, everyone's doing that stuff, unfortunately.
It's a little concerning when Israel ranks higher than Jamaica when it comes to smoking marijuana per capita.
I don't know, Eric. I don't know. I do know, though, you got people like Bernie Sanders out there who's ultra liberal. Happens to be Jewish and ultra pro-Palestinian and pro-Hamas and pro-terrorism. It's really weird. Thank you, Eric. Let's continue. Terry, where are you?
I'm in Westchester County.
Okay. And
I'm a big fan of your show, and I know you like pranks. Dan Quayle was pranked when he had a procedure done in the hospital. There was a host from WABC, but he didn't do it that time. He did different voices. He called up his Bill Clinton, and Quayle just took the whole thing. He took the whole thing hook, line, and sinker. If that's not a good cliche, it was very funny. It's on the internet. I know you like pranks and stuff.
I will look that up. It's pretty easy. I've gotten a few people being Bill Clinton myself. Hello, Veronica. This is Bill Clinton. Yeah, I was just wondering if you'd come over to the White House. You know, Hillary's away, and you just bring a book or something like that. Tell him you're here to see Betty Curry, and you can get. He's a very easy voice to mimic. All right, I'm going to look for that one. Anything else? Everything else good? What else?
Sure, slippery when wet. But the thing is, really,
Terry, that's enough. Thank you very much. Don't know what the hell that's all about. Bob in New Jersey.
Hey, Greg, thanks for taking my call. I just, for the last couple of years or more, the media has been spreading so many lies. And I was just wondering if you were aware that Obama, right before he left office, signed a bill stating that it was legal to spread propaganda.
It's legal to spread propaganda. I don't know anything about that. You mean for the government to spread propaganda?
No, media outlets.
Well, I mean, media outlets are allowed to do whatever the hell they want to do. I mean, they shouldn't even have a law permitting that. It's like by definition permitting that.
Well, before Obama signed that law, it was only legal during wartime.
I mean, I don't know, dude. I think the media should be able to do whatever the hell they want to do, and I don't like what they do, but they have every right to do it. Propaganda. I don't know anything about the bill you're talking about. I don't. We engage in propaganda. The United States government does. The State Department does. We have outlets for it, official outlets, Voice of America, and some other stuff. But I'm not an expert. Imagine that. Thank you, Bob. Let's do Russ. You're in White Plains. Yeah.
Hi, Greg Kelly. Trump could end this conflict tomorrow. Trump giveth, and Trump can take it away. He could remove the U.S. ambassador to Jerusalem, and
wait. Trump could remove the U.S. ambassador to Jerusalem?
If he was president.
Why would he want to do that?
Because Hamas would be so shocked they would stop to see what would happen, and Israel would
I'm sorry. Wait. One of our closest allies in the world is attacked, and your answer is withdraw our ambassador. That makes zero sense whatsoever.
Do we have defense treaty with Israel? Do we have a defense treaty with Israel?
Russ, you are on another planet right now on this one. All right? You're just totally out in space. I don't know what you're talking about. But you're a good guy, and thanks for listening. Let's try Bob. Hello, Bob. Never mind. Let's try Andrew. Hello.
Hey, what's up, Greg? I'm surprised with Adam you didn't pick up on the honeymooners reference that he drives. I guess it's a shuttle bus, not a city bus, but 15 years I've been driving a bus up and down Madison Avenue. But I just thought of the honeymooners. But on a much more serious note.
Every time the word bus comes up, we don't have to talk about Jackie Gleason.
But sadly with Adam, I would say that he is racist against black people because Black Lives Matter, like you pointed out, wants to take the fathers out of the homes, which is a catastrophic
All right,
idea.
just leave Adam out of it. Adam is not racist against black people.
Policies he supports.
He's not racist against black people. Forget about that. Right? Nobody knows the policies of Black Lives Matter except you and me and two other people who actually bothered to go look it up. Nobody else knows. So leave Adam alone.
By distracting, Black Lives Matter is distracting by the real killings in Chicago. How many are going to be shot just this weekend? There were 39,000 shootings in Chicago. I covered stories in Newark where black homes were shot up with Uzis by the black gangs. So they're unfortunately successfully distracting from actual killings of black people.
Well, I mean, look, people have been distracted and not acknowledging that for a very long time, way before Black Lives Matter showed up, right? way before they showed up. This has been downplayed and ignored and explained away or excused or overlooked or whatever. It's not new. It's worse, but it's not new. And these problems have been around since Black Lives Matter, way before Black Lives Matter showed up. All right. Thank you, pal, though, Andrew. You're very astute, listens to everything, wants to address every little thing that's been happening. That's okay. That's good. All right. Ooh, there's cheesecake. Stop everything. I will be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Donald Trump right again. Let's see here. I love this Truth Social. Are you on Truth Social? To be honest, I'm really not on Truth Social. I should be on Truth Social, but there's a Twitter account that posts everything that Trump says on Truth Social, and he says this: I have always been impressed by the skill and determination of the Israeli Defense Forces. When you think about it, they're great. As they defend their nation against ruthless terrorists, I want to wish every soldier the best of luck. May you return home safely to your families, and may God bless you all. What a great thing to say. What a great thing to post. You know, too many people are uptight. I can't. Oh, that's not my place. It's perfect. Totally perfect. All right. It's the weekend, and it looks like we're going to make it through this crazy day of jihad unscathed. I hope. All right. I got to get out of here in a second. Let's see here, though. A bunch of people just called in. Liz.
Hello, Mr. Kelly. I'm calling because over the years, I've had several friends that were in various intelligence agencies, U.S. intelligence agencies, and they're all retired by now, but there was a period of time in the 60s, 70s, and 80s when there were secret sites in the U.S. that trained people from various Middle East countries, including Saudi Arabia, Yemen, etc. They trained them also how to fly planes, if that reminds you of September 11th. What they're now noticing is that at the southern border, there's a huge amount of battle-ready, battle-fit younger men who are coming across the border, and they're unvetted, and they believe they were all sleepers.
Yeah, I know. We got a lot to worry about. My gosh. You know, sometimes I put it out of my mind. What's happening? What's happened? No border. Terrorists. Remember, they used to have to come in through airports, right? They had to come in. All the 19 hijackers came in through the airports, and we missed them, and they had this visa and that visa. And look at this. Yeah, it's very sobering. Very sobering, Liz. Yeah, yikes. All those guys are retired, you say?
Yeah, they're now retired, but I've seen one of the sites where they were trained, and I've met several of them: NSA, CIA, FBI, and they're all saying the same things.
You know, O'Reilly just put a video of me up on his website. It says, "Listen to Greg Kelly's strong take on Gaza." And it says, Greg Kelly comments on the destruction of Gaza. And then there's another thing that the title of it, Host lauds the total destruction of Gaza. I want the total destruction of the terrorists. All right. I want the total destruction of the terrorists. And, whatever it takes. I stand by whatever I said. Okay. You can go to BillO'Reilly.com. Thank you, Liz. I do have to wrap up in a moment. Let's go to, it's your turn, Barbara. Hello.
Hi, Greg. Hearing what you were just talking about with a lady about the young men coming into this country who may be sleepers, well, that just ties right in with what Henry Kissinger said 2 days ago in an interview in Germany. He said it was a grave mistake for these European countries to let in so many people of totally different culture and religion and concepts, because it creates a pressure group inside these countries now. Well, what do we think is happening here with these people coming over the border? Do we think that these people streaming across the border would understand our Pledge of Allegiance, would say the Pledge of Allegiance? Even our own students across the country who are demonstrating in favor of Hamas, they won't say the Pledge of Allegiance, you can be sure. And so what are we allowing into this country? We're allowing people who don't belong here, who don't subscribe to the American's creed, which says, I believe it is my duty to my country to love it, to support its Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies.
Wow. Yeah. By the way, and you know what? They're not even doing the Pledge of Allegiance in a lot of regular schools with a lot of American citizens. It's viewed as too jingoistic or something like that. I can't believe it. Henry Kissinger said too many illegals coming into the country. He said that where?
He said that in an interview with German television 2 days ago for Germany's WELT, probably pronounced Welt TV, and I saw it reported on Breitbart today, too, that he's backtracking to what he had proclaimed and pushed all his life, that we should have such open borders, that we should allow everyone in.
I don't remember him being one of those guys, though. I mean, I don't remember. He was pretty sober. He's pretty realistic. What do they call it? Realpolitik. He was a real kind of no-nonsense kind of guy. I'm surprised that was his thing. You sure that was his thing?
Well, they have the backup on the Breitbart article, which I read. It was a long article, which I read, and they said that pertains to the fact that he was a refugee in the 30s, that he came to this country. And so his heart went out to refugees all over the world. He thought no one should be stopped from coming into the country. And he made controversial statements over the years, which I was not aware of either. But when I read this today about what he said about you can't allow an unlimited number of people to come into your country who come from a different culture with different beliefs, different religions, etc. Of course, we can't assimilate them. No country can. We know we have way more people than we can assimilate into our culture.
Yeah, there is a culture here. There is the American way, and you got to sign up for it. Political refugees, genuine political refugees, I think that's what he was talking about. I mean, people fleeing Nazi Germany, fleeing communism, fleeing a place like a socialist state. I get that, but just coming here because for a job or for your economic dreams, I know that sounds nice, but it doesn't really cut it. And we've got too many. We got a big problem. Anyway, I'll see you guys tonight if you're around, and thank you.